unfortunately, I don't read as much as I used to because I've just been so busy with work and just housework and stuff like that. I used to read 2 books a month at least, substantial books, but now I maybe read 1 book a month, maybe 1 book every 2 months. The most recent book I've read is Becoming by Michelle Obama, but I don't have a hard copy of it. I borrowed an ebook from the library, but these are all hard copies that I have at home that I wanted to show you. So, let's begin. The first book that is an absolute oldie but a goodie is The Catcher in the Rye by JD Salinger, and I think this is one of those books that really hits you differently based on the stage of life. I felt like when I read this as a teenager, I felt like the main character, Holden Caulfield. I felt like he was kind of like the male version of me, and I just felt a lot of the things he felt, and kind of the teenage angst and all that stuff, and stuff like that. As you can tell, I bought it from a used bookstore, so there's a sticker on the front. But I will read you a little bit of it. There's a very famous part where he is, at a merry-go-round, I believe. But let's see where it is. Is it in the front or the back? I'm trying to find it, but I can't. So, I'm just going to say, that's all I'm going to tell about. I could probably tell you what I did after I went home, and how I got sick and all, and what school I'm supposed to go to next fall. After I get out of here, but I don't feel like it. I really don't. That stuff doesn't interest me too much right now. And that was very short, but I think in that very short excerpt you can see that it's written in a very stream of consciousness fashion. And it's just however you think, basically. It is your stream of consciousness and whatever feelings you are feeling at that moment, whatever thoughts you have. And it just is written in a way that shows the angst and all the frustration, the anxieties, the worries, the thoughts that Holden Caulfield has. And so, it is a very good book. I'm sure many of you had to read it for school. Next book, The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lux. And this is a really good book because it goes into a lot of very heavy things, heavy parts of medical history, and of course about racism within America and how they are often intertwined, unfortunately. And it talks about how her cervical cells are extremely, extremely rare and important for the medical community. But then it talks about, just the struggles that she had, and also the struggles that her family still have, and the struggles that her community has, and how there really wasn't much retribution or any type of real, credit that was given to her during the time when a lot of these things happened. I don't want to give away too much of it, so I think I'm going to stop there, because truly I just summarized the whole book for you. But I think the way that the writer Skloot writes it out is just a very objective manner, and it really shows you all the very just unfair, inhumane parts of her history, but also it really just paints this beautiful picture of who Henrietta Lacks was as a person, because it's important to realize that these cells that she have are part of her. They are part of a person. They are not just these things that just showed up out of nowhere. They are part of this beautiful lady. And so, the immortal life of Henrietta Lacks. And I'll try to find a good portion to read for you. Should we start from the beginning? Maybe we shall start from the beginning. Actually, we're going to do chapter 2. So, in chapter 2, Clover. Henrietta Lacks was born Loretta Pleasant in Roanoke, Virginia, on August 1st, 1920. No one knows how she became Henrietta. A midwife named Fanny delivered her into a small shack on a dead-end road overlooking a train depot, where hundreds of freight cars came and went each day. Henrietta shared that house with her parents and 8 older siblings until 1924, when her mother, Eliza Lacks Pleasant, died giving birth to her 10th child. And so just from that, a short excerpt, you can tell that the author really does paint a very humane picture of this person, where the HeLa cells are harvested from. And it's an amazing book that goes into, like I said, just medical history, and of course just racial, African American history and injustices. And it's really good. I really recommend it. And it's also a very easy read. It's not very existential or heavy, in my opinion. It's written very cohesively and very clearly. The next book that I really enjoy is The Jungle by Upton Sinclair. Now, this book, I'm sure you've heard of it. It actually outraged a lot of people when it was first written because of its portrayal of the meat industry. However, Upton Sinclair was actually kind of upset about the fact that people cared more about the meat industry rather than the people working in the meat industry. How people cared more about what goes into their body than what is happening to other bodies and to other people. And I think it's actually a very existentially pressing book, because I think it's very true that a lot of people care more about things that affect them rather than things that don't affect them, right? So, a lot of people have this mentality of, if it doesn't affect me, whatever, I won't care about it, I won't even think about it. But that is such a narrow view, and that is such a narrow perspective when we are people that are made to care about each other, and we have a greater purpose in life, rather than just focusing on ourselves. So, most people know it as a book that showcased just, the abomination of the meat industry. But I think even better, it just shows the evil within humans' hearts, especially when it comes down to making a profit and making money. Just how deadly people can be, and how unfair, how unloving, and just how hateful people can be. And so I really recommend it. I will read you an excerpt. And so this book book is actually a little different than what I thought it would be, and I was very pleasantly surprised. Let's see. And they wished that she would be still. Her voice sounded like the croaking of some dismal raven. Jerkis sat with his hands clenched and beads of perspiration on his forehead, and there was a great lump in Una's throat, choking her. Then suddenly Teta Elzbieta broke the silence with a wail, and Marisha began to wring her hands and sob, "Aye, aye, better man." All their outcry did them no good, of course. Their sad grandmother, Majowskin, unrelenting, typifying fate. No, of course it was not fair, but then fairness had nothing to do with it. And of course they had not known it. They had not been intended to know it, but it was in the deed, and that was all that was necessary, as they would find when the time came. Somehow or other they got rid of their guest, and then they passed a night of lamentation. And so this book, it is a really good book, and I think for the time it is written, it's not that, I would say the writing is timeless. It's not that hard to understand, because I do think that sometimes when books are written in a different time period, they can be a little bit hard to understand. Understandably, as language always evolves and changes, our definition, our diction, everything changes. But I do not think it's a hard book to read, and I really recommend it. I actually think so far, out of the books I've shown you, it is my favorite. Next book. This is my ultimate favorite book, East of Eden, by the John Steinbeck. And it's actually been a while since I read this book, but I think the feeling always stays with me. Just the fact of people just trying to make it, and just trying to find a meaning, I guess, in life, even in the midst of everything going wrong. But there's this concept of timshel that is very good within here, and it's kind of like, I don't want to give too much of it away, but it is this concept of being able to choose, and being able to choose more so between right and wrong. But I will say that this book can be a hard book to read because of how much dialogue there is. So there's a lot of back and forth of me talking, you talking, some other person talking, and then it's sometimes hard to follow that. But once you invest in the characters, I think it is very easy to understand who is talking and what kind of character they have. Just the character development in this book is amazing, and it is also a classic, timeless book. It really delves, just like the jungle, into the hearts of man. Actually, I think all these books really do that, and I love books that do that, that really uncover the evil and the good within the world and within your own heart that you aren't even aware that was there in the first place. But let's see if I can find a good excerpt. Everything is good here, but sometimes it's a little hard to understand because you really do have to read this all together. So it says, I will just begin in the beginning. The Salinas Valley is in Northern California. It is a long, narrow swale between two ranges of mountains, and the Salinas River winds and twists up the center until it falls at least into Monterey Bay. I remember my childhood names for grasses and secret flowers. I remember where a toad may live, and what time the birds awaken in the summer, and what trees and seasons smelled like, how people I looked and walked and smelled even. The memory of odors is very rich. So yeah, that was East of Eden, and if you do not know, sentences, it just clicks so much faster and it becomes so much more profound to know these stories and to see all these illusions that happen. But yeah, that was my ramble on my favorite books. So I will show them to you one more time. So we have The Catcher in the Rye by JD Salinger. We have The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks. We have The Jungle by Upton Sinclair. And then we have East of Eden by John Steinbeck. And so, I hope you enjoyed my little ramble fest. I hope I did not bore you too much. I am planning to try to get to reading more, so hopefully I will have more books to add to this. These are not all the books I've read in my life, but these are just my favorites. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this ramble fest, and I hope you take care as always, and I hope you come back